So today, we're going to dive in to a really powerful security concept. It protects everything from a simple warehouse all the way up to a top secret data center. It's a way of thinking that is all about layers, and it all kicks off with one simple question.
Think about it. Can a state-of-the-art $50,000 camera system be completely and totally beaten by a single ordinary brick? The answer? Yep, absolutely. And figuring out why, well, that's the key to understanding real security, because technology is never, ever a magic bullet.
So here's what we're going to cover. First up, we're going to tackle that magic bullet myth. Then I'll introduce you to something called the security onion, and we'll peel back its layers one by one. After that, we'll get into the Analyst Toolkit, the 4Ds. And finally, we'll see how to actually design a system that works, instead of just buying a bunch of expensive gear and hoping for the best.
You know, the biggest security screw-ups? They almost always happen when we put all our faith in one single piece of technology, thinking it's going to solve all our problems. But a system is only ever as strong as its weakest link. And, you'll see, that weak link is almost never the technology.
And this isn't some made-up story. This is a classic, real-world failure. You have this massive investment in high-tech surveillance, and it's all made completely useless by one simple, broken process. That brick becomes what we call a single point of failure that lets someone just walk right past every single one of those expensive cameras. So if that one magic bullet isn't going to cut it, what's the answer? Well, it's all about layers. And the best way I know to visualize this is something called the security onion. It's really the heart of a strategy that security pros call defense in depth. Defense in depth is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You're building multiple overlapping security layers. The whole point is that if an intruder somehow manages to beat your first line of defense, they immediately run smack into a second one, and then a third. Basically, you're trying to make an intruder's life an absolute nightmare. So think of it like this. An intruder has to go on a journey, and they have to move through these concentric rings to get to their prize. First, they've got to cross the perimeter, the property line. Then, if they make it, they have to breach the building's exterior, get past that, and now they have to navigate the interior. And only after all of that do they finally get to the center, to the asset they're trying to steal. All right, let's get into it. Let's start peeling this onion back layer by layer. And for each one, we're going to look at what its specific job is and the kind of tech you'd use to get that job done. So the very first outermost layer is the perimeter. This is your property line. The goal here is simple. Convince any bad guys to just turn around and go home. Or, failing that, stop them before they ever take a single step on your property. So what's in our toolkit for this layer? Well, you've got the obvious stuff, like fences and walls, right, physical barriers. But you also use things like super bright lighting. That's a huge psychological deterrent. You'll have gate control systems. And for the really high security places, you'll see advanced detection, stuff like radar or thermal cameras that can spot a person from hundreds of feet away, even in total darkness. Okay, so what happens if they get past the perimeter? Let's say they jump the fence. Now they're up against the exterior, the literal shell of the building. And here our goal shifts. We just need to know the instant they try to get inside. We need an immediate alert. The tools for this layer are all about detection. You've got door contacts, you might see them called DPS, that scream the second a door is forced open. You've got glass break sensors that are literally listening for the sound of shattering glass. And of course, you've got cameras watching your entry points and access control readers to make sure only the right people get their cards to work. Okay, so they did it. They got past the perimeter, they breached the exterior, they are now inside the building. We're at the interior layer, and our goal changes again. We're not just trying to detect them anymore. Now, we are trying to track their every single move as they make their way toward that valuable asset. So inside, we use high-res cameras to get a crystal clear look at someone's face. We've got motion detectors in hallways and sensitive rooms. And in big lobbies, you'll definitely see these optical turnstiles. You know when you hold the door for someone and they just slip in behind you? That's called tailgating, and these things are designed to stop it cold. And at last, we get to the very heart of the onion, the asset itself. This is the whole reason for all this security. It could be money, secret data, you name it. This layer is the last resort, and it had better be the strongest line of defense you have. The tech here gets really specific. We're talking heavy-duty, fire-rated vaults and safes. And in a data center, oh yeah, you're going to see server cages that won't open without something like a fingerprint scan. You might even have RFID tags on individual items that will set off an alarm if they're even moved without permission. Okay, so we've got the what, the security onion model for the structure, but now we need the how. How do all these pieces actually work together? To get that, we need to switch from thinking about structure to thinking about function. For any piece of security gear you see, you have to ask yourself, what is this thing actually doing? And the 4Ds give us the perfect way to answer that. So every single security device you can think of has one of 4 jobs. To deter is all about getting in their head, convincing a criminal to just pick an easier target. To detect is about awareness, knowing the second something is wrong. To delay is all about buying precious time by slowing an attacker down. And finally, to deny is to put up a hard stop, a barrier that simply will not open without the right key or code.
And this brings us to what is, no joke, the single most important equation in all of physical security. It's so simple. Your delay time has to be greater than your response time. That's it. Your defenses, all your layers, have to slow an intruder down for longer than it takes for help to get there. If they don't, you lose.
Let's put some real numbers on this to make it sink in. Let's say the cops in your town take, on average, 10 minutes to show up. That means your layers of security, your fence, your tough doors, your fancy locks, all of it combined must be able to resist an attack for at least 11 minutes. If a determined attacker can get through everything in 9 minutes, they win. It is that simple. All right, we've got the onion for our blueprint and the 4Ds for our tools. Now it's time to put it all together and start thinking like a security designer, not just like someone buying gadgets off a shelf.
So let's go back to that data center. A bad design? Doing all that work to protect the room and then just leaving the server rack itself unlocked? A good design keeps applying the onion concept even at this tiny level. The rack is its own final layer. It gets a biometric handle to deny access, and its very own camera pointed right at it to detect any funny business. See? That's defense in depth right there.
So now I'm turning it over to you. If this was your job, if you had to protect this data center from the ground up, where would you even begin? What's your first layer? What's your most important D? Thinking in layers, not in magic bullets, that's the key. Not just for a data center, but for anything you truly want to keep safe.